Okay, we're starting off with our tall and light cake. My beaters and my big mixing bowl are in the freezer. My oven is heating up, and I've cut the parchment paper into a circle, which was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. So, whoa. I'm spraying my non-stick spray, making sure to get the sides. Whoa, I did not expect it to look like that. And now we're placing down the parchment paper. I'm sure that helps it stick. That's nice because it's kind of curly. And then we're spraying that. And we're gonna let that sit for a minute while we start mixing. Okay, so now that that is set, I am just measuring out my flour using my tablespoon again instead of a scoop because I just don't have one. And my first impressions on the cake flour, I don't think I've ever made a cake from scratch before, so I have never really seen it, but it does remind me of like store-bought cake mix, which I guess makes sense because there's definitely flour content in that. Ooh, this is much harder to get back into the bowl since it's a box as opposed to just a regular old flour bag. So done that, and I'm gonna do the other one real quick. Okay, so now we're taking our pre-measured baking powder and our ½ teaspoon of salt, and I have my little whisk right here. So we're just gonna whisk that up, make sure it's mixed up very, very well before we proceed. Okay, so I've poured out the buttermilk, and I am just adding my teaspoon of vanilla into the buttermilk. Oh, whoa. All right. And I think that everything is still just a little bit too cool. I'm just gonna use the same whisk just to mix it all up. I think that everything is a little cool, like just a little bit cooler than room temperature. So while everything continues to sit just for a quick second, I'm gonna measure out, get my egg yolks and measure out the sugar and the vegetable oil. Okay, so I have moved locations where my mixer can be, oh, that's the wrong way, plugged in. And it is looking like my butter is actually exactly 65 degrees, which is awesome. So I've had these in the freezer and I just took them out. And I'm going to come back when these are all mixed up and I have to add more. Okay, so now I've mixed my butter and my sugar, and I have pre-prepared my egg yolks, each in their individual bowls. So I'm just gonna bring those over and get started on that. Okay, back into our regular scheduled area. I have my vegetable oil here. Everything's looking very nice, light and airy down here. So I'm just mixing in my oil with my big spatula. I'm gonna keep the ingredients up just to my side. And that is looking pretty good to me. So then we're gonna start with folding in. I just watched the video on folding. So we're gonna start with folding in, that's the butter for the next cake. Half of the flour and then half of the buttermilk, and then we will repeat. I think folding, it's kind of interesting. I think that's kind of how I stir already. So it's interesting to see how that goes. So we're mixing in, that looks like about, maybe a little more, half of the flour. So we go scoop up through the center and scoop up through the center. Definitely weirder to think about than actually do, but I will be bringing us back when we're all finished. Okay, so now that that is all folded in, I am just going to put it into my cake pan until it is about half full, just like the directions say. And then let's just see where this gets us here. Spread my batter out. Okay, definitely could use a little bit more. Okay, and then I'll be back to put this in the oven. Okay, so I actually had enough batter to do the cake and then one other small cake. So those are both in the oven right now. Timer set for 30 minutes, and then I will check on them with my handy dandy toothpicks. And in the meantime, I'm going to clean up these dishes and get started on the next recipe. Alrighty, so now that the cake has been in the oven for a good while, I just did a toothpick test and it's not quite ready. It's only been about 30 minutes. I'm going to be mixing my 6 tablespoons of buttermilk. It was a little frothy, so I have a feeling I might need to add a little bit more, but that's okay. Along with my 2 eggs and 3 egg yolks. And if I can find my teaspoon right below my bowl, I will be mixing in my 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Okay, we're back into the corner. I have here my flour, my sugar, my baking powder, and I'm going to measure out my salt on camera, but then I'm gonna just use my hand mixer, not my hand mixer, my little electric mixer right here on the lowest speed, just to make sure that that's all mixed up properly. Okay, so now that that's all been mixed, I am adding in my room temperature butter and my pre-measured vegetable oil and 2 tablespoons of buttermilk. This is when I'm gonna keep an eye on if I have enough buttermilk because it was kind of frothy when I measured it out. But I'm gonna mix that and I'll be right back. Okay, so that blended a lot better than I thought it would. And so now I'm going to be adding about 1/3 cup in with my egg mixture. Ooh, that looks really tasty. A little bit more. And I'm going to mix it all in with my beater and just repeat until it's entirely mixed in. Okay, so now that's fully been mixed in, and that is what the finished batter is looking like. Just from a little taste test of the batter, definitely seems extremely rich, but it also looks good and has a really similar taste. I guess that's to be expected. Just like flavor-wise to the original cake. So I am going to go put that into the pans and be right back. Alrighty, we're gonna be doing our taste test. We iced them with just some store-bought icing. So I have the tall and light cake, and my dad here has the moist and tender cake. So we are gonna give them a try and let us know what we think of them. Mine's definitely like really like light. Like it tastes like I don't know, like the like sponge cakes, like the light fluffy ones. And there's like a lot of like little holes, which makes a lot of sense with like the whipping the butter and stuff, with like the air bubbles that can get in there through that. What do you think, Dad?
This one feels a little like heavier, well, thicker.
Okay.
And you know, it's very tasty, but it's also very like it's very firm. It's like no real air pockets or anything.
Yeah. Wait, let's switch and I can show on
Okay.
camera that it's like very like tightly packed in there. Okay, and we can try the opposite ones now. I'll try the end. Okay. I see what you're saying, that it's very like dense. It feels very like compressed.
Yeah, very condensed.
Height-wise, I didn't really notice that big of a difference. The tall and light definitely was a little bit taller, but not by much. But definitely, like, maybe I just added more batter to this one. But this one definitely seems like very, like, tightly packed, very dense, very rich, whereas the other one's very, like, light. Like, I could definitely eat, like, 2 slices of that cake, where I could probably only eat, like, a slice of this cake. But thanks for following along, and we'll be back with the next one. Okay, so just to wrap up, the cakes rose because of the baking powder, which reacted with the moisture and the heat from the other ingredients and from the baking. As for what went well, I really think that I did a good job following the instructions and doing like the gradual things and learning how to fold things in properly. As for something that I would change for next time, I had to get more eggs because I don't think I realized exactly how many eggs I would need. So I think that they were a little bit too cool. They weren't fully room temperature, so that was maybe a bit of a hindrance. As well as I think it would have been easier with a paddle attachment rather than like the more traditional beater that I have. But overall, it was a lot of fun, and it was great to make the cakes, and they both turned out super tasty. So thanks for watching.